A guy like Zinedine Zidane is rarely ever going to come out in front of the media and talk about things that bother him. We all knew things weren't rosy at the Bernabeu in the Frenchman's last few months. There were rumours about Florentino Perez moving things in a certain way that would put the club's manager in the bad light in front of the media. Not just that, Real Madrid were an ailing institution, and with the effects of the pandemic worsening, they simply didn't have the money to make big-name acquisitions. But even then, Zidane stood by them, and the team actually took the title assault down to the wire. Once he announced his departure, Zidane made sure to set the record straight and had some really harrowing things to say about his last few months at the club. While Madrid have moved swiftly to make Carlo Ancelotti return to the club, we really need to discuss Zidane's issues at Madrid and what he had to say about the club president, who isn't an easy man to work with. So, if you know what we do and you like our content, make sure to subscribe to our channel as we continue striving to discuss football from a different perspective. Alright then, let's get on with it. Upon his long-expected departure from Real Madrid, Zidane decided to set the record straight, penning an open letter to the club's local and global fan base, explaining his decision to jump ship. The legendary former midfielder did that through AS, where he refuted claims that he was tired of coaching. Instead, the World Cup winner revealed that he's leaving the club because he no longer feels the club's faith in him and has no support whatsoever. Zidane, who won La Liga twice, along with 3 Champions League triumphs across his 2 managerial spells at Real, also claimed that after losing a game, there had been deliberately leaked messages to the press from the club's hierarchy that he would be sacked. This was definitely something that's been discussed quite a lot, and Zidane, as a man who prides himself in maintaining his integrity at all times, was never going to let this one slide. Zidane left the club in May 2018, soon after the club had completed a hat-trick of Champions League titles, because at that time he felt that the team needed a new approach to continue flying at the highest level. A crisis that was never accepted? Today, things are different. Apart from relinquishing their league title to bitter rivals Atletico Madrid, Los Blancos were actually struggling on the field. With star signing Eden Hazard's injury misery continuing with no end in sight, Zidane had to rely upon the services of Karim Benzema. The veteran striker continued to score goals at an astonishing rate, but it would have been quite different if he had someone else to share the burden with. At the same time, an injury to Sergio Ramos also dampened proceedings, with the Spanish defender only returning for the Champions League semi-final tie against Chelsea, where he struggled to cope with their offensive line on his own. But beyond the team's inconsistent displays, Zidane was facing a lot of issues behind the scenes. Of course, at a club like Real Madrid, the environment is always going to be demanding. This is no ordinary club. Madrid simply deal in titles and don't like to miss out on any of those they're competing in. When you talk about transition, Real Madrid are also not the sort of club that'll patiently wait for a few years without a trophy and give the younger players a chance. This is largely due to the fact that the club's presidents promise fans trophies and absolute dominance before they get elected. Failure to do so jeopardizes their future at the club. Prior to 2018, Perez had a near-flawless legacy at the club. He'd even managed to address the team's financial issues and ushered the club into an era of success that harks back to the days of Alfredo Di Stefano and Ferenc Puskás. Since then, however, the team has struggled. Ronaldo's departure was the start of it. The Portuguese international felt underappreciated, and Perez never really came out to support the man he banked on for over a decade. Zidane soon followed the legendary forward out of the exit door. These departures meant that the Blancos had to rebuild. Through both the summer and winter window of the 2018-19 campaign, Real largely underwhelmed in the market. Mariano Diaz took the iconic number 7 jersey on his return. An unknown Vinicius Jr. entered the fold. Thibaut Courtois, Brahim Diaz and Odriozola also joined the club. Vinicius and Courtois have become important players to the club. The same can't be said about the others. The team had an abysmal 2018-19 campaign, and it was only Benzema's brilliance and flashes of genius from the young Brazilian, but the Spaniards struggled. Following the disastrous campaign, Zidane returned to the club when it needed him the most. Hazard was signed alongside Jovic and Ferland Mendy. The former two struggled for various reasons, but it was the 2019-20 season where it became clear just how badly the team needed Zidane. The La Liga trophy was delivered, but Madrid still needed more about them. They might have become Spanish champions, but they actually did that because of Zidane's ability to make do with what he had at his disposal. For a club like Madrid, going through 3 windows with no major business was a surprising scenario. So, how can the club's senior hierarchy expect Zidane to do a great job without any financial backing? These were just the continued issues of a now 3-year period of questionable decision-making. Florentino's plan, or lack thereof, has hindered and is continuing to hinder Real's progress. Zidane this season battled to the best of his ability with a thin squad, and his reward, receiving no backing for the forthcoming season. Zidane was simply exhausted from whatever that was happening around him and perhaps made the right call to walk away, rather than risk having his legacy tarnished under a man who's clearly lost the plot. After failing to convince Massimiliano Allegri to join them, Madrid moved for Carlo Ancelotti, who returns to the club for the second time. Ancelotti returns to what had been his home between 2013 and 15, and the numbers from his first spell in charge at the club give Real Madrid fans reason for optimism. During that first stint, Ancelotti led Real Madrid to their record of consecutive wins, 22, and won 74.7% of the games that he took charge of. Sadly though, these numbers can be very deceiving considering the current circumstances. To us, it was very surprising to see Ancelotti's name come up. The Italian was doing a fine job at Everton, but didn't really set alight the Premier League. The Italian tactician's La Decima triumph was what set Madrid on a run of Champions League triumphs, but he now returns to the club when it's no longer a giant of European football. He'll be returning to the same players who are now aging and will need to make a few changes for sure. Is it Perez's move to hire another fall guy for his own inadequacies? What challenges lie ahead for Ancelotti? Madrid did announce the signing of David Alaba on a free transfer from Bayern Munich, but the Austrian's arrival should not be seen as conclusion of activity for this summer. Madrid need more than just the 28-year-old to return to the summit of European royalty. Sergio Ramos, his most trusted general on the pitch, is set to leave the club after not agreeing to only a 1-year extension, so another defender will be needed. Rafael Varane is also not keen on staying at the club for long, and with just a year left on his current deal, the Frenchman is reportedly eyeing a move to the Premier League. If he decides to not extend his contract, Ancelotti will need a stable option at the heart of defence. Now, Karim Benzema has been scoring goals for fun, but the Frenchman desperately needs some help. He can't continue scoring freely at his age, and perhaps it's time for Madrid to bring in a world-class striker. Similarly, Luka Modric's replacement will most definitely be needed. The Croatian is in the twilight years of his career, and a long-term replacement is badly needed. They had that in Mateo Kovacic, but he was sold to Chelsea, so perhaps making a move for Sergej Milinkovic-Savic would make sense. Similarly, Casemiro is also in his 30s and needs a younger deputy. Madrid have been linked with French wunderkind Eduardo Camavinga, and perhaps it's high time for the club to invest in a player who has remarkable potential to become a mainstay in the midfield for years. But the biggest issue that Ancelotti will have to face will be the form and fitness of Eden Hazard. Reportedly, Madrid are open to selling the Belgian international and are already eyeing a move for Kylian Mbappe. However, the Frenchman might be difficult to acquire this summer, so Hazard will have to do. After sustaining 12 different injuries in 2 seasons, the former Chelsea man must be devoid of confidence. Selling Hazard to raise funds for an Mbappe transfer makes sense, but it's not going to be easy. Hazard, when fit, can be one of the most devastating offensive men on the planet, and if Ancelotti is able to work things out with the 30-year-old, Madrid would practically be walking into the next season with a brand new signing. Another player who might help Ancelotti enjoy some success at the club would be Martin Ødegaard. The youngster spent some time on loan at Arsenal last season and was sadly never given many chances by Zidane. The Italian tactician, however, is pretty good with the younger players, and we expect him to give the young Norwegian the confidence he needs to become the player we all know he can be. All in all, Perez made quite a lot of mistakes, and this is why we're at a point where Real Madrid do look like a poisoned chalice for any manager out there. Perhaps that's why Allegri decided to return to Juventus. Ancelotti, on the other hand, knows that a return to Madrid could be his last chance to manage an elite club, so you can understand why he left Everton so quickly once the Spaniards made their interest known. However, this move does look quite risky, because in the world of Perez, everything is rosy as long as the club is doing well. But when things start heading south, even the best of managers, or those that have their names written in the club's history, can become pawns in the powerful president's penchant of belittling managers in a covert manner.